8 years old when I learned that the Salem witch trials is actually based on Black women.
Also, to add on to this conversation, Black women, where African women in America were criminalized for root work and doctoring is what they called it. I have 3 book recommendations. One is Working the Root. That one's downstairs. I just gave it to my mom. I'm trying to get her hip because she's a doctor. So I'm like, Mom, we have to know all of it, right? And then The Healing Power of African American Spirituality. This shows the connection between African spirituality throughout the diaspora. Like, it was talking about Jamaica in here. I was like, girl. But it like greens in the diaspora. In West Africa, preferred greens was called bitter leaf, and Jamaica had kalalu, which much loved vegetable and seafood stew. Like, talking about the connections throughout. But the criminalization of, what do you call it? The other books. This book, Black Magic by Yvonne P. Chareau. What some of it. Oh. So back then, they didn't really have like doctors as we see it now. And so typically a lot of African women and people in general, men too, they was gender neutral up in this bitch. They were doctors, they were herbalists, they were root workers, and they also helped midwives and following, right? And during this time, they would help women give birth. They would help, anyone. They would help people in their community with their health and resistance. Right? But they would help women. And then before the Salem witch trials began in America, there was this one woman. I did not just do a video. I did a video on her a brick ago, but it was in Hampton, Virginia, I believe it was, where this Black woman was said that she was evil. She was a witch because she was left-handed and was helping this white woman with her pregnancy and giving birth. And the criminalization of herbalism kind of has a correlation to the, damn, I lost my train of thought. Excuse me. Hoodoo, root work, and doctoring was seen as the devil's work and witchcraft and this, and demonized and devalued. But it was a practice of not only health and wellness and life, but it was also a practice of resistance, of survival in this new world. And on top of that, during slavery and after slavery, Black women and men would help people, would care for people through root working and doctoring and everything under the sun. Like my papa's mom, she was a community doctor, and she was more notably seen as like a midwife. She helped people give birth. She herself had 11 kids. My papa was the last one. And when I asked him about the book Working the Roots, my papa was like, oh, my mom could have written this book herself, in terms of these practices still being held, like being a tradition that's held on to and passed along through generations. And herbalism has been criminalized, was criminalized, and root work was criminalized. And these forms of, these practices were used to help people. It's windy outside. I think my mom just got home. To help people give life and give birth. And then it was therefore criminalized, and devalued. Damn, I keep losing my train of thought, y'all. But here in America, we could see that with the devaluation, or the demonization of these practices of wellness and resistance. In terms of, damn, bro, why am I keep losing my train of thought? You get it, I get it. They was the first Salem witch trials before. Because, like, when I learned about the Salem witch trials, I was like, how about the Black people? What was they doing then? And it's interesting to see how, like, in public education, I just learned about the Salem witch trials in terms of white womanhood, versus when I got to Howard and I'm an Afro Studies minor, I'm over here like, oh, y'all did it to black women first. But like, because Africans were all up in this bitch, up in this diaspora, meaning that during the Middle Passage, they were all throughout, they were taken along all throughout the Americas. These traditions and practices were not only shaped by where these people came from and parts of where they came from Africa, but also by their regions and locality and where they were transported to. And on top of that, a lot of like these practices were used to help people survive. And like for pregnancy, for example, or periods, for example, like the things that we eat affect our periods, cancer, like the correlation of like prostate cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer, all these things, and like the food that we eat and what, and like how it's processed, who's growing it, you know what I mean? Like those types of things. I think it's really interesting to see the correlations and connections between it all. And also, I personally believe it is imperative for the process of Sankofa, like going back and retrieving this lost knowledge or erased knowledge, deliberately erased knowledge, in terms of reclaiming historical memory and cultural heritage. Like, why do we do the things that we do? But the book by Yvonne Sherrill, she talks about like we had to doctor ourselves, we had to care for ourselves, and like different things like that. And like, have you noticed how like the less that there are midwives, black midwives and doulas and stuff like that, the more that black maternal health is threatened. Oh, sorry, I had an assignment graded. Maternal health, maternal life, black mothers are dying to give birth because there is a lack of culturally competent care in terms of, because the medical system, the medical field is built off of the violence against black women's bodies. Therefore, black women are dying to give birth, and then they are not given adequate care. And don't get me wrong, there are many organizations and different things like trying to like combat that. You know what I mean? Like I see so many different organizations and work done by black women that are trying to combat that and give life and help and support black mothers. And whenever I see that, I'm just amazed, and I'm like, wow, like please tell me more, because there's so much I don't know, and so I just get to nerd out and learn as much as I can. I just pulled up an article. In the United States, black women who give birth die at a rate that is 3 to 4 times higher than for white women. The mortality rate for black infants is also starkly worse, which more than twice that of white children. Such racial disparities have a long history rooted in systemic racism and white supremacy that underpins it. Yet black midwives have always been a vital piece in the care puzzle of black birthing people. People? Oh, gender neutral, sorry. And the historical ongoing work of black traditional and community-based midwives to help establish equitable systems of care must be recognized and uplifted. Until the late 19th century, the majority of births were attended by midwives. Many of those were black, indigenous, or immigrant women. Most midwives included enslaved women, drew upon traditional healing knowledge and practices passed through generations. Others learned practice through apprenticeship, either through local physicians or experienced midwives in their communities. In the early 20th century, however, as childbirth became medicalized, physicians emerged as the primary birth attendants, and childbirth moved from the home to the hospital. Oh, I got this from this. nursing.virginia.edu. And look at the picture at the top. Big purr, go ahead, black women. There's a lot more history in that, but like, isn't that crazy? Anyways, go ahead, black women. We still love you, because I still see people still continuing the work, and every time I see that, I'm like, that's so cool. And yeah, anyways, thanks for letting me nerd out, even though this was not really a concise and well thought out video. Have a good motherfucking day.